All right.
Joining your team. Oh, awesome. Hey, I'm John Donovan. Oh, nice to meet you.
Gina.
John Donovan, nice to meet you. John. Tuesday.
This Tuesday?
This Tuesday. Trying to get my other cases out of the way, and yeah, so it's gonna be. I think there might be one for like a few days of.
We'll meet and talk. Lisa should be also back on Monday, so
Perfect, yeah.
we'll meet with Danielle to figure out
Yeah.
who's scheduled what.
Was that process military? Oh, yeah.
Start the grand jury. Trudeau.
Less than honorable, other than honorable. It's not. Yeah, it's not a dishonor. It's not an honorable. It's between other than honorable.
Like get out of here, but you're not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's in there.
So that comes up in CCH. Jurisdiction.
That's what you're gonna be. And I had no idea whenever like this, it goes to the first page.
So the offer is
That's extreme. Now that I know the backstory.
so I'm sure he does.
Detectives up there. So did you guys find the distribution after forensic extraction or after the
So in the cyber kit reports, some of them are outside of the shared too. So right off the bat, anytime you're dealing with a kick upload, distribution. So and then we get the dummy back, and it's YouTube videos are in there. So.
It's there. It's in your folder.
Yeah. So.
That happens. How are you doing? That would be interesting. I reviewed some of the chat. I like Judge O'Malley. She's straight to the point.
Yeah. Yeah, she basically told me the same thing. It's like he wasn't moving.
Sorry.
While you want to
We'll get this
bag.
getting out of the way.
It's like my case. I have a chatter case.
I
was 7 years. The plea offer, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to submit mitigation," and the judge was like,
The little my
"Well,
price
what do you guys see?" And they were like, 3 years flat. And Judge O'Malley was like, "Are you kidding me?" She's like, "From 7 years to 3 years flat," and then she like looked at me and she was like, "Sadie," and I was just like, "Your Honor, there's no way this is going to a third degree." I was like, not happening. I was like, "We'll entertain a second degree range, so it's like maybe 5 years here." But count that. No
You have to
way.
pay monthly, so you might have to.
So that's why she started pushing 104 to me.
Yeah.
She's working this out. She said it's not going to play out. Oh, shit.
Oh, they did.
New witnesses.
Not yet. It would just be, eventually I will. Megan.
I would do that, 7-0, whatever.
Well, if you need it,
Portable Wi-Fi.
All right. The room feels lopsided. Thank you for coming. The Attorney General will be down in a few minutes, and we'll get started at that point. He'll be speaking, as well as Teresa Hilton, Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, and Lieutenant Colonel Phil Buck from the New Jersey State Police. So, yeah, we'll be getting going very soon. I'll be around if anybody has any questions. Thank you. Bye.
So he has a 5 count. The top count was I didn't even want to respond.
Oh, no. Child right behind Bill. Stroke. But it's case by case. Yeah, like, like the neuro.
It's so weird.
It's just a total creep.
Yeah. So it'll be hit or miss. They might find him compulsive, not repetitive. You know what I mean? Like, so
Well, actually, one of my questions, sorry. In that case, like, based on what he says, I think it sounds like he has repetitive compulsive. He has a serious mental issue. Is there any way that we can wait until straight to that? That would be amazing. Because Avenel, we're trying to have any sentence to Avenel has to be less. Defendant has the absolute right to refuse to go to Avenel. Okay. Like, so it's not mandatory. To do it is, if he has down examination of the doctor, there's not negotiable evaluation that determines whether or not to have headers. If they are, and they're eligible for sentencing, then the defendant has the option to do Avenel or go to state prison. Now, there's trade-offs on both, right? What's happening? Go in. You don't want to do your time out. Yep. It's quasi-personal.
They will release you when they think you're okay. Now, they can't hold you for that. They cannot exceed the time. Let's just say he goes in for 7 or 5, right? He goes in and then finds the age or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, what if it was
I haven't had one. I've been had a couple since he's been
yeah.
but he was as like this serial rapist.
Well, he was
Oh, he was.
I
I guess I was in the SPA and they evaluated him on the basis of
that's a simple one.
I got it.
And then that guy, so he was sentenced in 1979, and he's been in Athens.
That's what I thought of you. I was like, he's reserved seats.
You guys go start.
It was him and Kurt got it, they go to small tubes in Costco, whatever seat you get. They were parking early morning hours.
So we'll be, as I mentioned, underway very momentarily.
He came up with the review, it's just always the best. That was the worst part of my clerkship. There was one that was kind of confusing too. Offers and basically do things that eventually he went into acting, got out of it. And appeared certain he got into a conflict with the reserve. He told the legal guy to charge him something. Like even as a board member, yeah, but she called the police, told him that all this person said this, grabbed his recorder, saw that he just came right out of it. They throw him right back in. Well, and my judge actually released that question. I don't see it. I mean, release it. When I explained it to me, she said it still takes about a year. So they go halfway, and then they still have to do that.
I haven't. Did you figure it out? Yeah, I haven't been.
What happened to you?
Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, happy opening day. If you're a Phillies fan or a Mets fan, I wish you best of luck, but as a Yankees fan, hope springs eternal. I want to thank all of you for coming. Today I'm joined, and really proud to be joined by the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, Teresa Hilton, members of the New Jersey State Police, including Lieutenant Colonel Phil Buck, as well as members of the ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, Chief of the Division of Criminal Justice, Weldon Powell, First Assistant Attorney General Lindsay Rotolo, and many others from law enforcement in the crowd. I want to thank all of you for your service and your work on these cases, as well as many others. Today we're here to announce the arrests of 2 individuals in separate cases involving child sexual abuse materials, CSAM. These arrests illustrate the incredible work being done each and every day by our law enforcement officers to catch alleged predators who use technology to harm New Jersey's children. On March 26th of this year, members of the State Police ICAC unit, which I just mentioned, arrested 2 unrelated individuals alleged to be in possession of child sexual abuse material. One of the charged defendants is Luis A. Angeles Lazaro, he's 29, of Clifton, who was arrested and charged following a residential search warrant which was executed at his home. Angeles Lazaro was charged with second-degree distribution of child sexual abuse material and third-degree possession of CSAM. He allegedly transmitted approximately 24 videos of confirmed CSAM and possessed approximately 498 additional images of suspected CSAM. That same day, in an unrelated case, Darius J. Wilson, 21, of Newark, was arrested and charged after the State Police executed a search warrant at his residence. Wilson was charged with third-degree possession of CSAM in connection with the alleged possession of approximately 60 videos of suspected CSAM on his cell phone. Both of these individuals were the result of tips received by the New Jersey ICAC Task Force. And again, I want to thank the State Police for their tireless work and reiterate, if you have suspicion of someone being in possession of child sexual abuse material, please report it. We do respond to every tip. 2 additional cases that we're announcing today illustrate the connection often found by the task force between human trafficking on one hand and child sexual abuse material on the other, as well as other predatory behaviors towards children, particularly online. In these 2 similar but again unrelated cases, the defendants allegedly tried, through online chats, to arrange sexual assaults of prepubescent children. Defendants Raphael Azari, who's 32, of Brooklyn, New York, and Hank West of Chester, Pennsylvania, 43, of Chester, Pennsylvania, allegedly used chat apps to set up in-person meetings to have sex with children that they believed to be under 13 years old. Azari was arrested outside of Newark Penn Station on January 6th of this year, where he allegedly arranged to meet with an undercover officer with the intent of sexually assaulting a child. 3 weeks ago, on March 7th, he was indicted by a state grand jury with first-degree conspiracy to commit human trafficking, second-degree facilitation of human trafficking, 2 counts of second-degree attempted aggravated assault, sexual assault, and 2 counts of third-degree attempted endangering the welfare of children, and second-degree luring. The Division of Criminal Justice is prosecuting this case. The other defendant, West, allegedly arranged to meet an undercover officer for the purpose of sexually assaulting a child on February 28th at a Bordentown hotel, where he was apprehended, arrested, and charged with attempted facilitation of human trafficking of a minor, which is a first-degree offense, attempted human trafficking of a minor, second degree, attempted aggravated sexual assault in second degree, attempted luring in the second degree, and 1 count of attempting to debauch the morals of a child, third degree. Over the past several years, there's been an increase nationally in the number of tips reporting suspected predatory activity online, and New Jersey is no exception. These tips are investigated, as I said, by the ICAC task force led by the New Jersey State Police and prosecuted by our Division of Criminal Justice, particularly the Cyber Crimes Bureau, as well as our county prosecutors across the state. As a result of these efforts, the number of defendants charged and prosecuted in these cases has significantly increased. And I want to reiterate my deep thanks to the investigators, the prosecutors, and all of law enforcement across our state who work tirelessly to track down these alleged predators and protect our youngest and most vulnerable residents. These are really hard cases, personally and professionally, to handle, and I have just the deepest respect and admiration for everyone who does this work. It's been my priority during my tenure as Attorney General to support law enforcement across our state, particularly as it relates to protecting our kids. In doing so, we have a tireless commitment to bring anyone to justice who would harm our children. At the state level, we've been stepping up our enforcement efforts across the board and our collaboration with other agencies, local, state, and federal, working through the ICAC task force. These efforts require resources, and I've increased the number of personnel in the Division of Criminal Justice dedicated to combating the proliferation of child sexual abuse material. Staffing within DCJ's cyber unit has increased by 13% just since January, while the ranks of our human trafficking unit have risen by 33%. This is in order to address the uptick in reports that were received so that we can hold these perpetrators accountable. And just to give you a sense of the numbers, some of which I think might be up here, right there, excuse me. In 2020, the number of defendants charged with CSAM-related offense in New Jersey was approximately 232 in that year. By 2024, that number has increased to over 400, which is about a 74% increase in just a few years. And you can see the rise right there. Now, some of that's because of the increased reporting, but there's no question when you have more dedicated law enforcement officers and more dedicated prosecutors like the folks standing by my side doing this work, we can keep the public safer, which is what those numbers represent. And they build on the great work that was been led by Director Hilton, as well as many others in the Division of Criminal Justice, tackling human trafficking. Last year, in 2024, the state of New Jersey, meaning the Division of Criminal Justice, prosecuted more human trafficking cases alone in 1 year than were prosecuted by any office throughout the state cumulatively for the 4 years prior. We're sending a message that if you harm our children, if you harm vulnerable people, if you seek to take advantage of them for profit and use them for sex, you're going to be held accountable and you're going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. As you just heard, some of the charges are first-degree offenses. The defendants in these cases vary widely. Those arrested were different ages, they came from varying professions, they had different backgrounds. They lived both in rural communities and our biggest cities. But there's one common thread. They had access to children thanks to the internet. And I say this as both the chief law enforcement officer of our state, but also as a father of 2 young children. There's nothing, I think any parent would agree with this, there's nothing we wouldn't do to keep our kids safe. So I urge our parents, our guardians, and educators to join our efforts to protect the children of New Jersey from these heinous crimes by giving our children the guidance and knowledge they need to recognize online threats. It's critical to warn children about the perils of sharing too much information online. And by the way, this builds on non-criminal efforts that we've taken to hold social media companies to account who have knowingly preyed on our children and profited off of them and pushed products that they know are damaging to their mental health, fueling a youth mental health crisis in this country. So while technology is part of our everyday life and has benefited us in many ways, so too does it come with risks. And it's important that we talk to our children about technology and we listen to them to understand their perspective as well as how they're using technology so that we can address those harms. We should talk to them about app privacy settings and make sure we're monitoring them so that they can choose who can view their social media profiles and posts. Remind them to keep their personal information, such as their address and the school they attend, to themselves when interacting online. Check their devices and ensure that the settings for apps that use the camera feature are turned off. And learn who your children are talking to and interacting with online. Too often, so-called online friends, as we've seen in many cases, misrepresent who they really are. And I can't underscore this enough. Never let your child meet someone offline who they haven't met in real life. And if an offline meeting is scheduled, go with them or have an adult go with them and make sure that they're safe. As New Jerseyans, we have a shared responsibility to keep our children safe, free from fear, free from abuse, free from harm. ICAC was founded to ensure that law enforcement agencies have a coordinated response to offenders who would use internet to sexually exploit our children. And I couldn't be prouder of the work that's being done by them and the work that we're doing as a state to send a message that if you do anything to harm our kids, we're going to catch you and we're going to hold you accountable. And that is our mission this year, just as it is every year, and we will be tireless in those efforts. I'm proud now to turn the podium over to the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, Teresa Hillen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Attorney General Platkin, for your leadership and your continued support of the New Jersey Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and of DCJ's role within it. The ICAC task force operates nationally with 61 coordinated local task forces representing over 5,400 federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies dedicated to investigating, prosecuting, and developing effective responses to internet crimes against children. In New Jersey, this task force is run by the New Jersey State Police's ICAC unit. They not only manage the grant, but also coordinate with all the county and federal partner agencies to address all case tips and referrals that come in. All of the law enforcement agencies involved in the ICAC task force have the common goal of ending the exploitation of children. Today, we are celebrating the tremendous work of the state police and their partnership with us and the rest of the task force members in our fight against these crimes. As you heard from General Platkin, there are numerous cases that we can point to showing the success of this joint law enforcement effort, but certainly, cases where defendants try to meet up with children in order to sexually assault them are the most egregious. Two such defendants are Rafael Azari, age 32 of Brooklyn, and Hank West, age 43 of Chester, Pennsylvania. Both defendants allegedly sent graphic messages to undercover officers in an attempt to meet with children they believed to be under 13 years old in order to sexually assault them. In January, Azari was arrested outside Newark Penn Station, where he had arranged to meet in order to sexually assault a child. And on March 7th of this year, he was indicted by a state grand jury on 7 criminal counts, including the first-degree crime of conspiracy to commit human trafficking, along with second-degree crimes of attempted facilitation of human trafficking of a child, and 2 counts of attempted aggravated sexual assault. Meanwhile, West allegedly arranged to meet a child at a Bordentown hotel, which I know you heard a little bit about just now, where he was ultimately arrested on February 28th of this year. According to the investigation, West said he would bring root beer for the child. And when he was arrested, police found a case of root beer along with personal lubricant in his car. As Attorney General Platkin said, in 2024, over 400 individuals statewide faced charges related to child sexual abuse material. That's approximately 74% more than the number of defendants charged with those same offenses in 2020. And we will keep adding to that number until every would-be predator understands that in New Jersey, there is no safe haven. In New Jersey, we will go after you with every tool at our disposal to protect every child in every community in every part of the state. In addition to the types of cases I described, the mission of the ICAC task force is to combat the manufacturing and dissemination of child sexual abuse materials, CSAM. The victimization of children who are the subject of CSAM does not stop when that photo or video is taken. The people who possess or distribute these horrific images perpetuate that harm. And let's be clear, these are real children being subject to horrific sexual violence and exploitation. And anyone who collects or shares this material participates in the vile market for it. And the victims are left with scars that cannot be seen. And every arrest and indictment and conviction is a step towards justice, but we know healing is not only found in the courtroom. And so we will support every victim in every way we can for as long as it takes. And I join Attorney General Platkin in thanking every task force member for standing up for the victims at every step along the way. Thank you especially to the State Police ICAC unit, whose members work tirelessly in this fight, as well as our Cyber Crimes Bureau at DCJ for prosecuting these disturbing crimes and making sure that justice is served. Through this collaboration and cooperation, we hope to continue to keep our children safe from those who would seek to harm them. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Lieutenant Colonel Buck. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Attorney General, Director Hilton, Chief Powell, First Assistant Rutolo for ensuring, and I'll say that again, ensuring that the state police were a part of a day like today, in this moment. To say this is a difficult job for our detectives and our task force members within our ICAC unit, General, to your point, is an understatement. There are a lot of difficult roles that we play as law enforcement. There are a lot of assignments that are difficult and dynamic within the state police and within law enforcement, but the role of an ICAC detective, of an ICAC task force officer, has to be amongst one of the more difficult jobs to take on. I am a father myself. I've been a father for a majority of my career. A lot of our task force officers are parents. The members that are in this room today, hats off to our ICAC unit leaders who are in attendance today, whether they're up front with us or not. This is the details, the very few details, and the names of the defendants that are parts of these cases stay with our detectives for the entirety of the investigation, for the entirety of the case that they're involved in. And for the most part, those details and those names of defendants stay with our detectives and our task force officers for the entirety of their career. And that's something that we pay attention to, and we are protective of our own members when it comes to their mental health. As far as our most vulnerable, especially in the great state of New Jersey, our children. It is our #1 priority. It is our #1 mission. This is our time to say thank you to Director Hilton and her entire staff, Attorney General Platkin and his entire staff. There is never a wavering of support or prosecution when it comes to these types of cases. This is ICAC's day. We were here not too long ago for a human trafficking unit press conference, and that sentiment has not changed. That sentiment has not changed. So the support and that prosecution approach we are thankful as far as the state police is concerned, and anything that our partners need from our side of the shop, we are more than willing to provide. I'm just going to throw a few numbers out there that General Platkin already highlighted. Just think, going back to we're only in the third month of 2025, so it's still okay to talk about a few 2024 numbers. And in 2024, our ICAC task force received a record high, an all-time high of cyber tips, over 20,578 to be exact. That's an all-time high in cyber tips. All right, so the pressure's on and they know it. We're expecting more tips to come in this year, and more arrest and more prosecution to be a result of that. Going back to this time last year, all right, 2024 of last spring, all right, there were 65 total arrests, right, in almost a month span. So right around this time last year, another all-time high for our New Jersey ICAC task force. So that is a pressure that we are more than welcoming to take on, more than welcoming. It's a number that we don't want to be that high, but if the tips and the cases predict that, we're going to be right there on the front line to enforce those arrests and to engage in those operations. All right, so I want to thank, again, all of the state police members that are here today. It's super important that we acknowledge our federal partners, our county partners, our local PDs. Again, this time last year, part of those 65 arrests, there were 24 plus agencies, to include our entire state police division, that were part of that record high arrest total. Talk about the importance of collaboration. It's all of the individuals and the entities you see up here in the front of the room, but it's a lot of folks that are not in this room today, that are out there doing the job, boots on the ground. We have execution of warrants happening right now as we speak, because our detectives and our task force do not stop. So it's our job to support, it's our job to expose that exploitation of our children, and bring those people to justice that are behind it. Thank you to all our partners that are here today, that are going to be watching this later today. We cannot do that without the collaboration of every county and every federal and local agency that's connected to New Jersey. Thank you again for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel, and I want to again commend the state police for the leadership that they play in the ICAC task force and the tireless work, and as you mentioned, the really hard and personally difficult work of these investigations. I have seen them firsthand. I know that, as the Colonel said, it's not like you arrest an individual and move on. And so we care deeply about the safety and well-being of our children, about prosecuting those who would dare to exploit them, but also about the well-being of the women and men who do this work at great personal cost. And I want to just underscore something the Colonel said before I acknowledge the many people who are part of this, and happy to take some questions. The collaboration that we have across state, federal, local jurisdictions when it comes to crimes against children, when it comes to gun violence, when it comes to narcotics trafficking, when it comes to human trafficking, when it comes to any type of crime in New Jersey, sets us apart. It is unique. I talk to colleagues across the country. It doesn't happen in quite the same way. And it's the reason why for 2 years running now, we've had the lowest number of shootings in New Jersey history since we've been tracking them. It's why last year we had a 30% reduction in suspected opioid-related deaths. It's why we have these numbers in terms of charged individuals who would exploit our children. It's why human trafficking prosecutions have dramatically increased. It's not like these crimes weren't happening before. It's because of the coordination we've had and the intense focus from our state police, from the Division of Criminal Justice, from our county prosecutors, from our local police, from our federal partners, working in coordination, has kept New Jersey safer. And as the chief law enforcement officer in the state, that is my primary mission. And I recognize now that for many people, those numbers may not feel real. And so for us, our job is to make sure they know that any one case, any time a child is exploited, any time someone would use someone for sex and profit, any time someone is a victim of a shooting, and we continue to pray for the family of Detective Escona in Newark and his colleague who is continuing to recover. Anytime that happens, it should pain all of us. But these numbers are not just numbers on a page. They are children and families who are getting justice. And they are victims of heinous crimes who are seeing that the state of New Jersey cares about them. And while those scars, as the Colonel said, may never heal, we will stand with them both to hold those accountable and to lift them up and protect them when they need it. I want to thank, again, Director Hilton and Lieutenant Colonel Buck for your remarks today, as well as for both of your leadership. I want to thank Colonel Callahan for his leadership, as well as the rest of the state police leadership. Before I open it up to questions, I want to, as I said, recognize the many partner agencies that we have on the ICAC task force, starting with New Jersey State Police, Lieutenant Paul Sortino, the ICAC commander, and his team, the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, specifically Chief Powell, Deputy Director Jillian Carpenter, Bureau Chief Laura Magnone and their teams, the FBI, and I want to thank the FBI for their continued partnership, specifically Acting SAC of the Newark Field Office, Brian Driscoll, and Special Agent Kevin Matthews, who oversees the Missing and Exploited Children Unit. Thank the Department of Homeland Security Investigations, specifically SAC Ricky Patel, prosecutors and law enforcement from all 21 of our counties, including local law enforcement in communities across our state. It takes a village of law enforcement to do this work, and they are tireless in that effort. So I thank each and every one of you for the work you do every day, the 42,000 strong law enforcement officers, the finest law enforcement officers in the United States of America who keep our state safe. With that, I'll open it up to questions. Dave?
General, can you talk a little bit about what's going on here as far as why there is an uptick in reports, why there is an uptick in cases prosecuted? Is it that more people are becoming involved in this kind of pornography, this kind of crime? Or is it just that you're doing a better job collectively as law enforcement cracking down on it?
Look, child sexual abuse and exploitation of children is not new, unfortunately. But what has worked is increasing awareness, encouraging reporting, and then when those reports come in, having the people in place, the law enforcement officers and the prosecutors, to hold them accountable, and the victim services to provide support to those children and their families. So what we are doing is working. The mission is not over. You heard the numbers from the colonel of the number of complaints, and this mirrors what we're seeing in other areas where we have invested heavily in New Jersey to encourage reporting and then to act on it. It's true in civil rights violations. It's true in our guns work, which has resulted in the lowest number set of shootings 2 years running in state history. It's resulted here in human trafficking, and it's resulted in child sexual abuse material.
So would you say then, excuse me, would you say, General, that the problem in one way is getting worse because there's more of this activity, or is it just that you guys are doing a better job?
I think it's fair to say technology has, like I said before, has its benefits and it has its downsides. And one of the downsides of technology, and particularly with kids on technology and the proliferation of smartphones and apps, is people have tried to take advantage of our youngest residents. But the flip side of that is what we are doing is working. You can see the numbers there. You can see the human trafficking numbers. And these brave women and men in law enforcement and the prosecutors who do this work every day in the courtroom, their efforts are keeping New Jerseyans safer.
Could you give us a number of the total arrests last year versus so far this year?
Do we have that? If we don't have that here, we can follow up with you, Dave, and see what we can get you. Is it up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It gives the last several years.
Yeah, we can get you that after. Might be hard to see. I don't know why we sat you all the way in the back, but don't take offense. Any other questions?
I have a question off topic.
Sure.
With regard to the situation in Newark, where a 14-year-old is charged with killing a police officer, what is your position in terms of increasing the possibility of charging a minor as an adult in those kinds of extreme situations?
Yeah, I think anyone who attacks and kills a police officer should be tried as an adult, period. And I would support a change in the law that would allow that. Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much, and thank you again to all of our partners in the state police and law enforcement and the Division of Criminal Justice for their great work.